remote, put the tap on your tongue and just let it dissolve. Finger at home, so I'm breaking it off. He talking the dog, then we swinging like golf. Beast to the hate, I can't let it above. I can't ever escape it, cause stuck in the box.
Yo guys, what's going on here? Monkey-D-Lukey here for another YouTube video. In today's video, I'll be talking about the most underrated anime, in my opinion, obviously, of all time. Maybe thinking, oh, underrated anime of all time, you can't say that. I think that's certain. Well, I'll tell you, it actually is. Let's be. And then this anime is 1000% the most underrated anime of all time. And to answer your question on what is the most underrated anime of all time, it is World Trigger. Yes, brand new season on Crunchyroll. Although it's only 30 episodes long, banging season, great animation from Toei, really pulled it back. But in this video, I'm going to go into depth on how it is the most underrated anime of all time. It certainly is. In this video, we're looking at now the different types of trigger they have in the show and the power system they use, which is, in my opinion, one of the most in-depth anime power systems I've ever seen, and it's very interesting, so let's get into it. The first type of trigger they use to fight within the show is the attack trigger, and the attack trigger is modelled after edged weapons like spears and swords, and they are very focused on close combat quarters and impressive balance between Trion consumption and offensive power. This is because there's only a small percentage of Trion he's quite to manifest them. Basically, he's close quarters attack a class which you can use to fight with. So I forgot to mention what Trion actually is, and Trion is energy used in the anime, and it comes from the Trion gland, which you can't see but is located near your heart. Basically, it depends how powerful you are in the anime. So if you're born with a high Trion gland, it can be powerful. However, you really need to start developing it at a young age. If you get past 20 and you haven't trained at all, it'll start to decay. Basically, it's predetermined how strong you're going to be. Now we're going to look at the gunner class, which is a medium-ranged attack. Unlike the attack trigger, the gunner class is focused around use of bullets and projectiles to fight the enemy. The gunner class has multiple types of triggers to be used, such as there's shotguns, there's just normal guns like LMGs. If you compare them to the attack triggers, they have a lower firepower and a greater consumption of Trion, but boast superior range because they have guns. Obviously, the guns in the show are composed of three main parts: a body that determines power, a cover that protects it from wind resistance and extends its range, and finally a propellant that sends it forward. Trion is divided from these three components determining power, range, and speed of their bullets. Another class in the show is the Trion Cube class, which is like a variation of the shooter class. Shooters create a floating cube whose size and Trion content depend on their Trion reserves, basically how big their Trion gland is, of which these cubes can be created and they're used to fly around in multiple directions. This, in my opinion, is one of the most interesting kind of attack class because they can delay bullet times and create very interesting fight scenes and very smart fight scenes as well. They can also scatter bullets to specific locations, then switch to an attack gear, and then switch it back to the shooter gear, and then activate them. It's a very complex and good class to have up your sleeve. But finally, the downfall is you've got to remain a certain distance from the planted bullets or to control them, or they won't activate. Also, gunners have different types of firearms. The firearms in the show which have been seen so far are the assault rifle, the grenade launcher, the handgun, the minigun, and the shotgun. Showing the range and diversity of guns they show on the show, which makes it, in my opinion, to watch very pleasing on the eye. The last trigger I want to talk about, there's many other ones like defense triggers, trap triggers, other types of optional triggers, but let's go for the basic ones, is the sniper triggers. And in my opinion, these are quite OP ones and most best to watch in my opinion. Triggers have the longest range and very high power, but unlike gun triggers, sniper triggers are the weapons themselves, not just the bullets. A large amount of Trion are used up in one shot, so they are suitable rapid fire. This class is heavily decided upon your Trion gland and how much Trion you have inside that gland. On top of this, the distance which they fight that makes it impossible for people to counter-attack, and makes them very good for surprise attacks against opponents. See, they're very vulnerable at close range, because they're snipers. However, snipers can focus on three individual components to either make their speed faster, increase their range, or increase their power of their own bullets. It also, in my opinion, makes them very interesting to see fights and how people fight tactically. Black triggers are triggers which are very overpowered in the show and known as personality triggers. These triggers are very special and interesting because they're so powerful. But what they are is basically when someone pours all their Trion, their life Trion, into an object and it makes the creator die, but the trigger is a legacy for the creator's allies. And basically they're overpowered really, and it's a bit like Jin, I think he's called, who has his cool black trigger with all like the whips coming out of it. It's really sick and visually interesting. and they have really cool powers which are good for fights. On top of this, they also have two other triggers, the Queen trigger and the Crown trigger, but they haven't been showed in the anime. I don't know about them, so I can't really say, but they're there. Anyway, that's a little brief overview of the triggers and what they can do. But another great advantage of the show is the range and diversity of characters they have in the show, which are really good. This can be seen in the amount of units they have in the border agency, with over 20 units having over 3 to 4 members in, and you get to see each of the members and how they're like, which in my opinion adds to the story, adds more characters to it. Some of the interesting units are the Tamakoma first unit, which features Reggie, Kirei, and Kyosuke. I mean, it says name, I don't know. But anyway, these two characters are like mentors for the Tanakoma second unit, of which the protagonist, Osamu, and Kugayuma, as well as Chika, who's also in the Tanakoma second unit. Also, there's a Tachikawa unit, which features Kei Tachikawa, who's a like mysterious person in Border, who's like a rival of Jin. And spoiler alert, he also gets his black trigger as well. Another personal favourite squad of mine is the Miwa unit, which is quite good actually, because there's a guy with a spear and also has 2 snipers as well, which is very fun to watch. And also has a really good fight scene with this guy through a high school, which is very good and very one of the best fights in the series in my opinion. And another personal favourite of mine of the units is the Arifune unit, which is completely comprised of snipers. Although the B rank is still very good to watch as well. So yeah, see, you have a lot of squads and a lot of range of characters as well, with different fighting styles and different tactical ways of fighting. Like there's one team, I forgot they're called, sorry, my bad, but they're very cautious of fighting and don't take many risks. So you know, each team has a different way of fighting, which is very interesting to see pan out in the fighting. So you might be like, ooh, they've got a range of characters, they could be good. However, you're probably asking, is the story good? Let me just delve into the story. The premise basically of the story is that 4.5 years before the start of the series, that there was this massive, large-scale invasion of Earth through this portal. So Border did exist at the time, but after the first large-scale invasion, Border was created and headquarters was built exactly where the portals appear from the other worlds. On top of this, Border has like a board of directors as well as 2 branches, the Border branch and the Tamakoma branch, which acts independently and is involved with the neighbor world. Also, in this massive border agency, there are 4 ranks available to their agents, going from C to S, with different requirements to be in each one, such as S, you have to have a black trigger and you're automatically in it. And for other ranks, there's each different ways to get into the higher rank, such as reaching a certain amount of points for 1 tier, as well as for B tier doing ranked battles to get to A tier. And basically, the story is about this C ranked person called Osamu, who is very weak, finding this neighbour in the street and becoming friends with the neighbour, and then training to become stronger to help this neighbour return where he came from. That's not the full story, it's kind of like a little synopsis really. But in my opinion, the main character is Kugayuma, because he carries the show in the fights and he's so strong compared to Osamu, who in my opinion is kind of pointless in fights. But he has had his chance to shine in fights as well, especially in the recent ones. But the show would be a lot better if Kugayuma was actually the main character and not Osamu. However, it still doesn't take away from the show, and it still makes the show really good, because Kugayuma is pretty much the main character anyway, but just isn't in word. Also, in the second Tamoka squad is Chika Amatori, who wants to go to the other world to try and find a brother who was kidnapped, which is quite suspicious in my opinion. But anyway, she was kidnapped by the neighbours, or killed, no one knows, but she wants to go try and find him. So it's good that everyone in the squad has different reasons to go to the neighbourhood, except the main character. So all in all, I think it's a great story, really great run out, and the fights are really interesting. However, it does have some of its downfalls. I mean, in my opinion, it's not really a downfall, but I'm confused actually. Can people actually die in their training form? Because all they do is bail out, so they themselves don't actually die, which I'm confused how you're actually supposed to die. That's one plot point. Another is quite a big one for people apparently, is the animation of the show. And in my opinion, it isn't that bad, and it's very watchable indeed. And I feel like it also doesn't take away from the show. I feel like the fight's still really good and tactical, interesting to watch, and the characters are still amazed. However, a little warning, it's not Attack on Titan or Demon Slayer or One Piece or One Arc. It's not that good, but it's still decent to watch. It's still not, but it's not terrible animation. You know, it could be better, obviously, but it's still watchable. Don't take anything away from the series. Yeah, sorry about that editing, and I stuttered a little. Anyway, all in all, World Trigger is definitely the most underrated anime in my opinion ever. It's heavily underrated. The story's great, the characters great, the fights are great. Only thing let down really is the animation, but Crunchyroll brought it back. Or it's Toei, sorry, and it's animated really well and sick, so really good. Really recommend if you haven't watched it. It's not a waste time, it's really good. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did actually. Well yeah, well it should be your boy, Monkey-D-Lukey. Hope you like World Trigger, I do.
Everyone should like it. Lol, joking, do what you want. But yeah, thanks for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.
Got the